Welcome you all to yet another session of the Right Circle, where we bring to you a divergence of the beauty of language, literature, and a group of immersed readers with an appreciation of the written word. The Right Circle, an initiative by the Prabha Ketan Foundation, serves as a vibrant platform within the Foundation's literary endeavors. This initiative was created to bring together authors and readers of English literature in a close, engaging and informal setting. Each session is thoughtfully crafted around the life and works of the featured author, culminating in an interactive dialogue with a discerning audience. This evening, we have the privilege of hosting a captivating conversation between an esteemed author, Koral Dasgupta, and the seasoned conversationalist, Jyoti Agarwal, Ehsaas Woman of Shillong. Our heartiest welcome to both of you. Before we dive into the most awaited conversation of the evening, let me take a couple of minutes to talk about the Foundation. The Prabha Ketan Foundation is a non-profitable trust committed to humanitarian and socio-cultural causes. Late Dr. Prabha Ketan established it as a charitable trust in the early 1980s. Based in Kolkata, it is committed to supporting women's empowerment, gender equality, literature, culture, and performing arts. Late Dr. Prabha Ketan was an eminent Indian literature, philanthropist, social worker, entrepreneur, and feminist who established the foundation and believed in unity and diversity. The Foundation's multifaceted initiatives include the Right Circle, Kalam, Akar, Kitab, and Authors Afternoon, Loves, Shakt, Ek Mulaqat, Tata Tea, The Universe Rides, Chaupal, Rahat, Karuna, Muskan, and boutiques festivals like Shehnama and Ramayana Kala Utsav. These fall under the diverse verticals of literature and language, culture and heritage, social welfare and women empowerment. We are elated to share that three-time Grammy Award winner Ricky Cage, the man behind the anthem and signature caller tune of Prabha Ketan Foundation, has curated 12 amazing musical pieces to score across video invites of events and social media platforms, as well as for pan-India and overseas communications. To create awareness in the community, we uphold one pressing social issue every month. The music of the month for September is "The Magic of Today is the Science of Tomorrow," a musical piece that reminds us never to lose our childlike fascination, to learn and to never stop believing in miracles. Now let me introduce you all to the guest author for today. Ms. Koral Dasgupta is known for her multifaceted personality. She is an author who has published an eclectic range of books, from academic non-fiction to relationship dramas. The stories explore the inherent nature of complex minds, leading to a relatable conflict and unpredictable climax. Having published widely with Westland Books, Niyogi Publishers and Rupa, her books are discussed from the context of gender studies, art, myth, and eco-critical literature. Other than India, Koral's books are shelved in the libraries of University of Harvard, Columbia University, University of Pennsylvania, University of Chicago, University of Wales, Duke University, University of North Carolina, University of Texas, and others. Her fourth book, Summer Holidays, has been optioned for screen adaptation. She is currently working with Pan Macmillan on the 5-book Sati series, a retelling of the stories of Panch Kanya from Indian mythology. Ahalya and Kunti are on the shelves. Tell Me a Story, founded by Koral leverages literature to design and execute extensive learning programs which inspire social engagement and behavioral change for inclusion and diversity. The moderator for the evening is my dear friend, Jyoti Agarwal, Ehsaas Woman of Shillong. Besides being a successful professional, she is an eager literature enthusiast. Today's event is in association with Vivanta Shillong and unwavering support of Ehsaas Woman of Shillong. Sri Simon is the gracious patron for the event. May I now invite today's author, Ms. Koral Dasgupta, and our conversationalist, Jyoti Agarwal, to kindly come up here and take the evening forward. Over to you, Jyoti.
Thank you, Pooja. It's a great privilege for all of us to have Ms. Koral Dasgupta amongst us. So, Koral has been writing for over a decade now, and she's delved into love, relationships, and now finally she's writing about taking characters from mythology. So, the latest is that you've written books on the Sati series, which is books with five characters, which are like, huge personalities. So when I got to know that it's about 5 personalities, like even writing one book is a huge task. So how did you do it? What is the routine that you have? So all of us are really eager to know about that how do you do it? Like coming out with 5 books back to one every year almost, it's like quite crazy. Koral, tell us about it all.
Firstly, thank you Prabhakaran Foundation and Ehsaas Women for arranging this evening, and thanks to all of you for showing up. So wonderful to see a full house, and so eager to meet you all after this session. Jyoti, when I started, I never thought that anybody would say yes to publishing it. It was a spark of a thing that came to my mind. Let me tell you that I am not a mythologist. I'm probably better read than many others when it comes to Indian mythology, epics. Many versions of them I have read, and many times I have read. So there are questions that came, and when you grow up reading them so many times and accumulating those questions in your mind, there is a time that you spend with them, you feel very, very, uncomfortable being wherever you are, and the kind of, takeaways that your people around try to tell you that, as a woman, learn from Draupadi, learn from Ahalya, learn from so and so, Sita. और जो कुछ सीखने के लिए बोल रहे थे वो सीखना नहीं था. तो but then you cannot say no to Draupadi and Sita. You can say no to your mother. You cannot say no to Draupadi and Sita. तो चुप रहना पड़ता था. So a long time was spent keeping quiet and wondering कि ये हुआ क्या. But when you deal with these things for a long time, what happens is after a period of time the subconscious starts returning answers. At least it happened with me. And I was since very childhood, I was very much invested in the symbolism of Indian mythology, the concept of Shiva, Kali. Kali is our dominant god in Calcutta. Durga, Krishna, all of them. And I was very fascinated with Indra as well. Indra, nobody taught me to love, but I loved him. So, थोड़ा बगावत तो हर लड़की करती है शायद. So that was my बगावत, loving Indra. So it was just a spark that came to me that for a very long time we have been told that Sati is purity, and purity is equated with, for women, it is equated with their body. That how pure they are is defined by how pure their body is. But here we have the concept of Panchkanya, and there's a sloka in the Vedas. I didn't write it. It says that if you take the names of these Panchkanyas regularly, then you are spiritually empowered. And all these 5 Kanyas, Kanya is translated as virgin. And all these 5 Kanyas have had more than one partner. So it came to me that it cannot be physical purity. And mythology, anytime, it is philosophy, not religion as it has been portrayed to us. Philosophy is never about anything small, it takes the bigger context. So the body is only the home of the soul as long as it is on earth. So it will not consider the body for any kind of, frivolous definition, frivolous term. So I felt that probably this purity means something else. And as I delved in, I figured that, okay, purity, what they're trying to say is, don't get touched by something that you are not, that you don't want to. Today, the entire world is saying that kindness doesn't work. Don't get touched by it if you don't believe it. If you are kind and that is your natural goodness, know how to retain that, yes, you will find a lot of hurdles on the way in order to retain who you are in your best way. That is sati, that is being virgin. It is not talking about physical virgin.
And coming from such olden times, like that we hear today, we are talking about pure body, but it is how it is that it is the soul which is pure, and it is your thoughts and emotions which have to be pure.
I come from Bengal, जहाँ पे purity के नाम पे लड़कियों को मतलब जलाए गए. They have been thrown into the fire when their husbands died. So for me, it was a big revelation, and I thought that by the time I end up writing 2 or 3 books, I will be killed. I have survived.
I know India is tough that way, that at least you're writing, but the freedom that we have in Hinduism is amazing, that you can write about mythology according to your like research and your understanding of it. But
yeah,
otherwise,
the good thing that happened, which I actually was quite thrilled about, is that both right-wing ideologues and left-wing ideologues have loved the books. Trolls don't read.
Yeah. So in fact, when I was reading Ahilya, there's one, Ahilya, I think everyone knows the story, that how she was with Gautam Rishi, and when Indra came into her life for one night, and then Gautam Rishi was offended and turned her into a stone. But her interpretation of that is totally different. She's like, you tell us about that. Yeah, they should hear it from you.
Okay, for me, I tried to break everything into information. I mean, that's what I feel about our religious texts. Religious is again a word that is coined by patriarchal society. These are philosophical texts. So everything is a metaphor, every person, every event. So even when they are talking about Ahalya being turned into a stone, what I understand is, all of a sudden if I pick up someone, and that could be a man or a woman, and say something that is absolutely not him or her, the first reaction is it's turned into a stone. That is what the mythology is telling us. That she froze, she turned into a stone. It is not that,
she physically was a stone.
Yeah. She took a long time to overcome that kind of an allegation. Again, that also happens. When you are subjected to that kind of an allegation, it takes you a long time to, not for the world. The world may never agree. But it takes a long time for us to come to terms that maybe. And that is the moment when you feel that you are, liberated. That liberation is the touch of Antaratma, where we are touched by our own Antaratma. Rama or Krishna or Vishnu represents the Antaratma. So everything is falling into place, The dots are getting joined. So more than what I did, I don't think that I just did the interpretation maybe. But it is there in mythology. I am not creating this.
Once you delve deeper, then you realize it's there. And also that I wanted to know like how Indra is there in all of your 5 books. In the Sati series, Indra takes a very important role. So Indra, and you've connected Indra with the Indriya, which is the senses. So that connection also is like new to me, I have not read about that much, like after your books only I realized. So tell us about that. Indra is always mischievous though, like since childhood you've always seen him like, okay, don't get associated to Indra. Indra is the mischievous one, he's the one who always creates problem in everyone's lives. So, but you don't take him like that.
Yeah, pre-Rigvedic texts, at that time, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwar were not the prime, Indra was. And there are beautiful hymns and texts about Indra, he being the supreme god. After that, Indra lost relevance. Things progress, new icons are developed, and things happen. Now, it so happened in a literature festival where I had still not got into writing Sati series, but we were just discussing mythology. And one guy, he was sitting and he was also not. He was sitting and talking to me. And we were discussing Indra, and I said that I'm fascinated by that character. He said, so he got very angry. Indra is a rapist, he's a philanderer, and you are talking about that you love Indra. I mean, what? So I was like, it came impromptu, the question that, okay, who do you think is the biggest hero of Mahabharata? He said Arjun. And so Kunti called Indra to give birth to Arjun because Indra was a rapist. So, uska answer uska paas nahi. That is when, of course, Sati series mein Indra ko gana was my badmashi. because I felt that Indra must be understood in that perspective. You see, a beautiful woman crosses you, and if you're a man, right? उनको देख के अपने city मार दिया. That is Indra. The first reaction, the spontaneous reaction, your impulse. And you see the woman crossing and you write a poetry. That also comes to you spontaneously. That is also Indra. So Indra doesn't have a box जहाँ पे आप उसको बांध सकते हो. You know? Indra is the god of water, drought rains. Water is also like that. It has no shape. It depends upon who you are. तो आप इंद्रा को वैसे ही महसूस करेंगे जैसे आप खुद. That was something that I felt was funny, at the same time mischievous. So others can get mischievous if they want.
So among all the 5 personalities that you've written, Tara, Kunti, Ahilya, Draupadi and Mandodari, which among these are your favorite? Like, you know, if you think about it, who is most fond to you?
I had the most difficult time of my life writing Draupadi. Because trust me, that woman is different. I had submitted the manuscript and taken it back, like, here's some story. Because anytime, if you're ever writing or talking about any story where there's a crime against women, you will never be satisfied that I have done it. You will always feel that something is missing, I need to do more, I need to, address this more. So Draupadi was the only book that released in October. Otherwise, all the other books released in July or max in the beginning of August. But my favorite is Tara. Because by the time I wrote Tara, it had 5 years of learning, and I felt that I could pour myself into it.
Yeah, so Tara was the last among the Sati series, so that's why by then you had mastered it all.
I won't say mastered, but I had learned a lot. Secondly, Tara was the animal world, Bali Sugriv, their wife, so it was the monkey world. And I was dealing with animal ethics, which is very different from human ethics. And I was, all I was researching during that time was not mythology, but how animals operate. And I'll tell you one of the articles that I read. It was about a research that was happening in the US. They had kept some monkeys for research. And one monkey was behaving a little differently. So they shifted that monkey aside and tried to understand that what is happening, why is he looking so different. So they kept, now all the monkeys could look at each other. So this one can see the others can see this one. They kept a bunch of bananas in front of this monkey. The monkey started feeding and eating. And the others were shouting because they were also hungry. They also wanted to eat. So the scientists were, taken aback that this one, instead of giving others, is engrossed in eating all of them by itself. So they took the monkey for further research and found out that the monkey is mentally unstable. Now you put this information in the human world. With animals, there are few very strong principles that they follow. One is a friend they trust forever, an enemy they forgive never. That is one very strong principle that they follow. Second principle is they are very sharing. They move in herds. So in every herd there's an alpha, and the entire herd will follow the alpha. In case there is a conflict and another alpha emerges, there will be a division, and people who choose to follow the other alpha will go with it, and these two will never be friends again. So you can see when Bali is the alpha, he is everything. When Sugriv emerges as the next voice, they come into that conflict. So these are certain animal ethics. The third principle that they follow is they do not attack unless threatened. They will operate all together, no problem. Only when they are threatened or when they are hungry, they will go for the kill. These things are, when you read Bali Sugriv's story from that perspective, you find a lot of things changing in that story. The way we have villainized Bali is, Bali is a wonderful character. Such a lovely character.
In Ramayana, he's totally villainized all the time.
Ramayana hasn't villainized it.
It's his childhood.
The people who spoke about Ramayana have villainized him. Actually, there is a natural tendency among us that if one person is the hero, the other has to be a villain. Zaruri nahi hai. One person can be the hero, the other doesn't need to be a villain. The other just disagrees. Bas utna hi hai. And with logic, with a lot of experience, jaise hota hai. When you grow up with different experience, when you come from two different, ambience, two different cultures, you disagree, but that doesn't mean that you are, you want to kill the other one.
So, Koral, I also want to know, like, your books are there in so many universities, University of Pennsylvania and everywhere, like, how do you feel about it? Like, it's such an honor to do that, to have your books there for reference. So how was it? How did that happen? And tell us more about that. I was really intrigued by that.
In fact, another author friend, Kiran Manral, she had pointed out, "Arey, dekh tera book kahan." So I was like, "Arey." So मुझे खुद ही नहीं मालूम था. So I have put it in my bio कि अगर मुझे ही नहीं मालूम था तो बाकियों को तो बिल्कुल नहीं मालूम होगा. तो मालूम पड़े सबको. I have no idea कि ये हुआ कैसे. But अभी what is happening is Indian epics are getting read from different perspectives. Divinity is coming up as a course, divinity studies, and Indian mythology or Hindu mythology is the interest of a lot of people. So probably that is how a lot of research work is happening. Chitra has done a lot of has done a lot of work. She probably is instrumental in raising interest towards these works. And I am talking about beyond India. In India, of course, Amish studies. So that is where probably people are trying to see that who all have done and whose work is getting discussed, and that is how things are moving. कैसे ये books यहाँ पे गया है?
So we're glad you're writing about mythology, and we've got that insight. Reading Tara and Kunti was like really beautiful. But even your summer holidays did very well. I think it's going to be turned into a movie, or how is it? So tell us about summer holidays, because I think everyone will want to know and get their hands on that book too.
Summer Holidays is a comedy. So I was writing it in, I think, 2019 it got published by Rupa. And this book was about two families. The parents fought, so the cousins got separated. Parents won't see each other's faces. Cousins were very good friends when they were children, and when they grew up, there's social media, so they connect and they meet and they say that, okay, let's bring them together. And through a lot of funny things, because both of them know the typicalities of their parents. So that is basically the story. Writing it was fun because I could put in a lot of things that happen in general. हमारे घर पे there was this house help when I was in Calcutta. I was small, and she would often tell me that if I would talk back and get scolded and sit down sulking, she would come when nobody was around, and she would tell me that, listen, don't talk back. Men, when you grow up and you get married, you understand that men don't like intelligent women. It is okay. It is okay if you are intelligent, but it should not show. So I would just look at her and kya bol rahi hai? So that has made into the, these kind of things have gone into dialogues of summer holidays. Those are my lifelong collections. Lifelong memories, that how women are brought up and those who perceive, that intelligence, how that intelligence is, hammered. So I find it very funny. But while writing it, एक अलग लेवल का कॉमेडी हो गई थी. So one of the मेरी बगावत ये थी इसमें कि the boy cousin was doing arts. He was totally engrossed in graphic art, and the woman, the girl, she is an engineer and she has come to IIT Bombay to do her masters, MTech. Now, I went to see IIT Bombay because I had not seen IIT Bombay. If I have to put the classrooms and all that in place, I have to see that how it is. So, kuch jugaad pakad ke I got across to a professor and he just picked up the phone and said, "हाँ, आ जाइएगा." तो मैं पहुंच गई. So I went and I told him that I just need to see your campus around because I'm writing a book. I really need to experience. So he heard the entire Ramkatha, and then after I spoke for about 10 minutes, 12 minutes, convincing him that I will be allowed to see the conference hall and the seminar hall and the classrooms, he said, "Though you are writing a book on chemical engineering." I was like, "Hey, I am writing a comedy." And you know, I could see, मतलब जो कांच फूटने का आवाज होता है, I could see that happening on his face. So he was very heartbroken, and he called an intern and said, "दिखा दे इनको जो देखना है दिखा दे." So that boy actually took me ahead, and then he was more patient, trying to understand कि मैं कर क्या रही हूँ, and he took around the entire campus and helped a lot. While I was coming back, I got lost because IIT Bombay is a huge campus. I got lost, so I couldn't find the way out. So I asked one lady was coming out, so I asked her. So she said, "मैं जा रही हूँ, आप मेरे साथ आइए." So I said, "ठीक है." So I was going, and then she said, "क्यों आई थी?" I told her. She turned and looked at me ऊपर से नीचे, and she said, "बंगाली है?" I said, "जी." ये बंगालियों के पास ही इतना फजूल वक्त होता है. I was like, अभी तो मैं आपको कुछ बोल नहीं सकती, लेकिन बुक के प्रमोशन में मैं आपको इस्तेमाल जरूर करूँगी. She is lucky that I didn't ask her name.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you really made a niche for yourself, you know, so many books are there on love, relationship, and then these Sati series are there. What is your expertise in your view? Like, what do you think would be your strongest point? And now, in the future, what are you planning? What will you get into start to write? How will you go take forward now? Still more of mythology, or you'll come back to something else? What's your plan?
I want to come back to something else. My publisher is not agreeing. Because mythology has sold, now they want कि इसी को मतलब इसे में काट के बेचते हैं. I want to come back to something else. But what I realize is in whatever writing I have done, and that will continue to be my space, my writing is never about that male passion. I don't believe in that kind of. If you have read any of my books in mythology or otherwise, you will find gorgeous male characters there. Even in mythology, the way the male characters were told to us, it is, again, like films, like books, that machoism is, told to us with great pomp that this is what is about masculinity. But when I read mythology, there are so many characters and there is so much learning about men, women coming together to create a complete whole. If you look at Shiva Shakti, right? When they are together, they are a ball of energy. When you take Shiva away from Shakti, there is thunder. ये simple चीज हम लोगों ने notice नहीं किया है. And in everything, Lakshmi Narayan, whatever you say, they are talking about that, being each other's strength. Wherever you lack, I have your back. That's all about it. So, abhi bhi, I am personally very, very disturbed with what happened in Kolkata. And I saw a post which said, not all men, but always men. And I have very strongly opposed it. That bato mat hame. This is the time when we should come together. When it is criminal, when it is a criminal and you try to find some common thread of that criminal with others, you say Muslims every time, you say men every time, you say Brahmins every time. You are actually equalizing it with some other people, which is absolutely, absolutely unfair. So, don't do it like that. Coming back to mythology, when I look at Pandu, when I look at Bhishma, when I look at Arjuna, I find amazing characters there. You were talking about my books being there in a lot of US universities. I find it really funny, because I have always been very, very critical of the US researchers who researched on Indian mythology without understanding the culture. Wendy Roniger, for example, criticized Arjuna. US is a country which had dropped atomic bombs on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, right? During the World War. In Indian mythology, we have our hero who at a critical juncture of war stood up and asked his Antaratma that I know I'll win my war, but why should I fight? And now your researcher comes and tells us that this hero of our culture is trash. You have to just understand it from the right perspective. Till today, there are so many people who find it very weird that I would love Arjun. I understand that Arjun's skill was archery. It was his talent, it was not his power. Power was this, that he could ask this question to his Antaratma, which is Krishna. At that point, if all of us have this power, a lot of wars will not happen.
That's such a beautiful thing you said. So now that all these books have come out, like, you know, do you also think of writing about any male character? It's always going to be like the female from the mythology. Like how you said you love Arjun.
I haven't planned anything, but making it a completely male domain
might not be
may not be fair. No, not interesting. They are very interesting. But I mean, for example, when I was writing Draupadi, I had taken up Bhishma. When I was writing Kunti, I had taken up Pandu. Even for Mandodari, I mean, what occurred to me was that Ravan could be an absolutely villainous character. A lot of bad things about him. But then he was very talented. He was extremely well read in Vedas. He was a wonderful artist. He could be whatever. But if the wife loves him, and the wife is not a fool, I mean, you can be scared if the person is, wicked. But you won't love, right? If the person is in love with that guy, then he must be doing something right as a husband. So, from that perspective, looking at a character who is very easy to hate, I enjoy doing that. But there are a lot of things about men that I still don't know. When I write from the perspective of women, I can look at men from the perspective of women and write about them. I can write about their pains as a woman, feels. Because women are conditioned to be more inclusive. They think about the family, they don't think about themselves only. That is how we are conditioned. But writing about a man means right from the childhood. Patriarchy has not smashed only women, they have smashed men too. By saying things like men don't cry, by saying things like mat ko dard nahi hota. So if there is a mitti and if you don't water it, anybody who walks on that mitti will get the ankle slashed, right? So taking up that man's voice, I don't know whether I'll be able to do justice.
And also, one last question I want to ask you is that, like, normally how you see it, that authors, sometimes some authors say that always we have a block, like there are certain times of a year that you think, okay, we can come up with a book, and there are times when you really wait for that creativity to flow out. Like, how do you get it? Like, do you have a routine? Do you have a schedule? Like, or you go to a secluded place and become a recluse and then write? Like, what is your schedule? Like, how do you do it? Like, for the authors, what would you advise? Like, because sometimes people struggle, okay, I want to write a book, but it's just not coming to me, like the new one. So how do you do it?
See, I'll tell you something, and that is totally my opinion, and don't tell it to anybody else. Writer's block is a glorified topic. It is just a bad day at work. Kohli 0 run मार के out होके आ गया, वो cricketer's block थोड़ी होता है. It is just a season where he is not at his best. That's it. So yes, we do have that, but for me it has not happened like that. And I don't have a planned structure ever. I usually get up very early in the morning and begin my creative schedule. But then what I have realized is that 5 o'clock when I am sitting in front of my computer, that is the time when I am thinking more. It is not that probably till 6:30 I am sitting and looking at the Word file and thinking, abhi kya kare? Later, the flow happens. And I have never planned it. There are a lot of people who put it graphically, that first chapter, second chapter, third chapter. Nahi hota hai. it is always impromptu that flows. There are some days when I write 200 words, there are some days I write 3,000 words. It's just flowing. What works for me, as I was telling you, Piche, that जब तक my husband doesn't come and say that blue socks कहाँ है, जब तक my son doesn't come and say that bread खाऊं या cornflakes खाऊं, जब तक the house help doesn't come and say red gravy या yellow gravy, तब तक मेरा flow बनता ही नहीं. I've got conditions with them also. that इन लोगों को भगाना है. At every interval, every half an hour interval, किसी ना किसी को भगाना है. और तब जाके flow बनता है. But on a serious note, I do a lot of thinking. I did a lot of thinking. I think that helps.
And did you always think you would be an author, like, you know, or it just happened?
It happened.
It just happened.
हम लोग जब छोटे थे तब author बनेंगे बोलने से तो चाटा पड़ जाता है ना. It is doctor, engineer, that's it. There's no third option. So I think I broke a lot of hearts in my family when I said that doctor, engineer नहीं बनना. Then someone said professor बन जाओ. मैं हाँ ठीक है, okay. Economics लेके पढ़ी, उसके बाद I said that I'll do MBA. Actually I said that I'll do MBA because समझ में नहीं आ रहा था अभी क्या करूँ. कोई जगह में समझ नहीं आ रहा. So I did MBA because that was the easy route to take. MBA के बाद भी मतलब I couldn't figure that अभी MBA की डिग्री तो आ गई, उसका करूँ खाऊं सेटल काम करूँ समझ में नहीं आता. So for a long time I grappled trying to find my space. Only when I was not taken seriously by my mother. When my first book was out, second book was out, हाँ ठीक है, साथ में कुछ और भी कर लो. Now she is like, okay, चलो. I think you have found your space. बहुत जल्दी बोलती है.
After all this achievement, finally she said that.
Coming from a Bengali mother, it is a great.
So even Koral's husband also writes very well, Tuhin. So how is it, like, you both write together also, or he helps you, like, when you're writing your books first, he, like, normally in couples you see, you know, that, okay, just read it, how is it, what do you think about it, does it go like that between both of you?
We read each other's paperback. Before that, we hide our manuscripts from each other. It's like, nazar lag jayegi. So we do not show our manuscript. We tell each other that what we are working on. But help to kuch hota nahi hai yaar. Matlab, my husband had been writing from a longer time. When I got into writing, a lot of people thought that he's ghostwriting my books. So that coming out of that took some time. After that I realized that उसके दोस्त मेरे दोस्त नहीं बनते, लेकिन उसके दुश्मन मेरे भी दुश्मन हैं. मतलब these kind of weird things happen. So now I am like that. You संभालो your empire, I'll संभालो mine. Because there are a lot of times when someone will call him and say that this festival is there. तुम आ जाओ, कोरल को बोल देना कि she is also invited. So this is what happens when you have a husband who is somewhat in the similar. You get taken from that.
So no fierce competition as such.
Competition. He is a senior writer in the family, so he has that air.
Okay.
मैं writer हूँ, मतलब तेजा मैं हूँ माँ की तरह. So I get that.
And even with the publishers, like coming back again to your Panch Kanyas, like how you said you came up with the 5 books, like normally what I hear is that, you have to pitch in your idea and all that, so they agreed with the 5, like you hear of trilogies and you hear of, okay, prequel, sequel, but you never hear of 5 books together. So you must be having a pact with them that, okay, I'll do the 5 books, and did they agree? Like how did it happen?
I just wrote them that one sentence pitch which I told you, that purity is not about the body. And Pan Macmillan definitely took a huge risk, I would say, because at that time I only had Ahalya written with me, and I had no clue what I'll do with Kunti and others. So they said that आप पहले लिखो ना. So I said that see, नहीं हो पाएगा. So they took a leap of faith, and I'm very, very grateful to them about it, because taking that kind of a business leap, I mean emotional leap समझ में आता है, that I had taken. They had taken a business decision. It was not a viable business decision. I could have, in between, at least, especially for Draupadi, इतना कुछ लिखा जा चुका है. And moreover, when I wrote Draupadi, I had suggested that Krishna was not a male god, Antaratma. So that changes a lot of things, right? That Draupadi was not saved by a male god, it was her inner wisdom. So a lot of people could have trashed it. That would have been a, very big issue. Yeah. But Draupadi did the best. So, so they took a huge leap and it paid off.
And you never thought of Sita, like that you should get into writing about her also, because she's also a huge character that way, if you see in the mythology.
Sita is largely covered, before her exit from Lanka is covered in Mandodari, and after her exit from Lanka, the entire fire test and her going under the soil is there in Tara. So I did cover Sita in these two, but not as a primary character.
It's lovely to know all about it. Now I'll open the discussion to the house so that we can have all your questions and Koral can see to all of that.
Thank you, Koral, for being here in Shillong. And this is actually we can sit for hours on end to listen to you. It's so entertaining and so vibrant.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I must say that you have opened up quite a new ways of looking at especially the character like Indra and other mythological characters. Just two questions queries I have. One is, when you said about, if I have heard rightly, that in the Vedas, they mentioned that the five Kanyas whose name are referring to these Kanyas, the five Kanyas. But as well as the Veda was written much before than the Mahabharata, and Mahabharata is much later. So how perhaps the Veda had anticipated that kind of understanding or a meaning of something, that is one. And secondly, your book on Tara, that is of course, your plan is quite wonderful, but there's one discomfort from the way we look at the characters of monkeys, quote unquote, from a modern perspective. Because animalizing or defining the other as Asura, Danava, Rakshasa, this is the Aryan metaphor of describing the other. So is describing the tribal as animals as vanaras, because perhaps tribal can climb the trees. So don't you think that by describing them as again as monkeys in the modern text of Tara and Sukrit Bali, reinforcing that Aryan politics of reducing the other, the non-Aryans, as just animals and being somewhat condescending that we are yes, we're animal and still we are giving it place. So that is one discomfort area perhaps. If you can have a different interpretation about that. That is a third, of course. It's a request maybe. Of course, the satis are there. Perhaps in your hand, another character might come very strongly, perhaps a Surpanaya. That's yeah, a unique interpretation.
Your first question, I may have said Vedas by mistake, it could have been Puranas. It was just a slip of tongue maybe I have. And thank you for pointing that out. Second question, the Valmiki Ramayana talks about monkeys. And if you look at, it is a later research that equates that probably these are the Vananaras who are being called Vanaras and the othering and all that you say. If you look at Ramayana, it has all kinds of life. The birds, the animals, different kinds of different tribes of humans. And it is talking about bringing together all of them in a beautiful way. And that is the basic difference between Rama's world and Ravana's world. While writing, certain things came to my mind and I was really, really awestruck by the way. I'll tell you two examples. One is Lakshman, the avatar of Sheshanag, right? Lakshman is known that the entire period of Rama's Vanvas he kept awake, right? Sheshnag is a naga, snake, serpent. Snakes sleep with their eyes open. You see to what extent these kind of things have been threaded. that Sheshnag has been chosen as the avatar, as the incarnation who comes in as Lakshman. The second example, in Rama's world and Ravana's world. Rama's world has Jatayu, a bird who knows that he will die, because in front of him is the very mighty Ravana. But he decides that it's more important, more than his life, it's important to stand by Sita, even if he dies. And he goes in and dies. In Ravana's world, there is Pushpak. Pushpak can follow orders, but Pushpak cannot use his brain to take a decision by itself. In Rama's world, there is a brother who will stay awake to care for his brother. In Ravana's world, there is a brother who will sleep for 6 months. In Rama's world, there is a brother who is sitting in Ayodhya with Rama's chappal. In Ravana's world, Vibhishana is there with him, but not with him. There are countless such, such things in Ramayana, the world that they have constructed together. And they also bring together different forms of life and talks about the harmony. That if you believe in that harmonious coexistence, the kind of benefits that you achieve not as a human, not as an individual, but as a collective whole, who is enjoying the fruits of the world, are manifold. Coming to your third, Surpanakha, covered in Mandodari. Surpanakha in Mandodari is a very feisty, she is the beauty queen of Lanka. And I have been brutally criticized for writing Surpanakha that way, because, see, I have shown Surpanakha as a villainous character. When Mandodari is narrating the story, and all the 5 books are written in first person's narrative, when Mandodari is narrating the story, she cannot be kind towards Surpanakha. Everything has happened through her. Right? So, of course, I had to show Surpanakha because Mandodari is telling the story. But what I give to that lady is something very interesting. She had, Ravan killed Surpanakha's husband because he was an enemy of Lanka. Surpanakha gets angry, leaves Lanka, comes to the forest where there is Rama and Lakshmana. She offers marriage, first Rama and then Lakshmana. Both deny. In the process, her nose gets slashed. Now she is angry with Rama and Lakshmana. Now instead of taking the fight with either by herself, she knows that both of these are very strong. She gets them to fight. Outsource her pura fight. That is one strategy I really give to that woman. But yes, when it comes to Mandodari, I cannot glorify Surpanakha.
Good evening. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And it was really nice to listen to you. I'm actually intrigued to see your name, Koral. Since it is personal, you may not like to respond, but I wanted to know how did you get this name. And the other thing is that since you know Bangla, the masculine gender for the word Sati is Sat, which means somebody who is with truth, as far as I understand the word. So if it is for man, is somebody who is with truth, but why it has to be for women that somebody has virginity or similar things? So I think in translation we have a kind of misnomer. And I'm thankful to you that you are trying to change this perspective with your writing. So, but if you have to choose 5 Sat characters, who would they be?
First question. Second question. My name. Okay. It is actually Coral. When I started writing, that was the time when Karan Johar and Ekta Kapoor were naming everything by K. So I thought that K will sell. So that is how it's Coral. And secondly, it's very difficult to choose. But I understand that Sat characters would be those who are dedicated towards something, one cause of their own, not necessarily to the world. Just like the women are not necessarily Sati because they are completely dedicated to their husband, or because they chose their cause. Going by that, Maryada Purushottam Ram, He is called Maryada Purushottam not because he did the right thing. He is called Maryada Purushottam because he chose his cause and stuck to it. The philosophy behind this is, and this philosophy is for everybody. Every philosophy that has come out from every character applies to everybody. When you are in leadership, if you are the leader, that is your first thing. There is something that Indira Nui had said, and she was brutally criticized, that if I give my everything to my office, my home will suffer. She was brutally criticized. But what's in here? You have 6 hours if you are sleeping in the day, you have 18 hours, right? In 18 hours, if you are giving 16 hours to your office, you give only 10 hours to your children. So you will not be able to do justice. You might find a work-life balance ki jitne time hai, half. That is where you are actually calculating your time. To stay politically correct, you are not dedicated to either. Right? That is Maryada Purushottam. It is not that Ram had done everything right. And again, mythology also then tells us, from this perspective, from whatever I just said, that even Bhagwan cannot do it all right. So, other than Rama, Arjun, Abhimanyu, 3 हो गया, 2 Division, more than Ravan division. Yeah. He chose his cause, and he went forward to that. That's why I'm choosing him as.
Though he took the wrong path while killing even his own nephew, because he was going to do puja and he didn't have astra when Vibhishan informed Lakshmana to attack.
You know,
at that weakest point.
If that way you see, there are many such cases like that. Abhimanyu, if you see, he was killed in absolutely wrong means. Same here. What it is trying to say is that if you are focused on the cause, you will not be able to see anything else. You may find this wrong. Depends upon which perspective you are looking from. If I am a leader, okay? If I am a leader, if I am heading a business, my dedicated effort will be towards making 2 plus 2 10. I cannot make 2 plus 2 4. If I make 2 plus 2 4, I am a bad leader. I am talking about profit-making business. It depends upon which perspective you look at. As a business leader, I will be expected to make 2 plus 2 10. That is my dharma. Now, if you are my sister, someone from my family, you might feel that what I am doing is wrong. And your point holds. So that is the reason I choose Vibhishan, because he went ahead with his cause. And he took a lot of course, he is the mythical traitor.
But he doomed his whole race.
He doomed everything.
Not just his everything, but his whole race. An entire race was doomed and went under another race.
See, when the wrongdoing starts, you are not in a position to make that judgment or make that decision. Wrongdoing started with Sita being kidnapped. And when you have entered war, you are no longer in a space to decide. You have to win the war. That's it. You might feel that this was not right, that was not right. But it depends upon if you have committed, you keep that commitment.
And not because Lakshmana actually molested a woman, like cut the nose.
Of course that is absolutely, okay. As a woman, as a humanitarian, I find that absolutely, it shatters me. But now, sir, let me ask you one thing. When there is a fight, there is a war, and the army is fighting, and from the other end, there is a woman warrior, will the man stop fighting or treat the woman as equal and continue fighting? They fought. If you look at what Surpanakha had done, that's again my perspective, debatable. She comes to Ram and says, marry me. Ram says, no, I have a wife, happy, not interested. Ask my brother. She goes to the brother, says marry me. Brother also says happy, not interested. Why did she go back to Ram? No means no, no? If you are talking in terms of gender equality, rules has to be equal, have to be equal. It cannot be different rules for different genders, if we are talking about gender equality. So, from that perspective, I find Surpanakha very flawed, but yes, from humanitarian perspective, nothing.
Ma'am, I think we have added a new dimension to this debate about getting proposed and getting married. But here I want to see, I see a difference between how Arjuna had or Bhima had married tribal women. And they had multiple wives. Ram also had in some narratives multiple wives.
No,
Lakshman?
No, Lakshman also did.
So, but then here,
All the Pandavas.
that is, in one narrative they could take multiple wives from different communities, but in one they are rejecting. So, how do you see this difference then?
Rejecting, is it?
I mean, Ram rejecting the proposal of Shurpanakha or Lakshman rejecting.
It is more of a personal choice and ethics, no? It was Ram's decision that I will not take a second wife. Dashrath had 3.
That's all.
Just one more query that I have. Some people are claiming that Kaikeyi was a queen from Persia. So these kind of narratives that are getting popular, so do you agree to that kind of narratives?
Yeah, Pakistan. Near Afghanistan. So it was a part.
Good evening. Good evening. You have written about very strong women characters, and how do you perceive the contemporary Indian women when you compare them with these strong mythological women characters?
You know, if you look at the covers of my books, and the covers are all paintings by Hemen Majumdar. Hemen Majumdar is a classicist, and his specialization was painting women wearing wet clothes. You can just look him up, Google him up. He is amazing. And all the 5 paintings that we chose were women who were looking away. None of them are looking at you if you hold the book. The idea of doing that was every story is everybody's story, even men's story. You know, as I say that Ahalya turning into a rock happens with men also. That when you put up an allegation which is so much, you know, not expected and not true, a man will also turn into a rock. And you will see the same kind of thing. The women's stories are men's stories as well. If you look at, though it is not a part of Valmiki's narrative, but a popular narrative, that Lakshman Rekha. Okay? It's a popular narrative that happened in later translations. Lakshman Rekha says that there's a boundary drawn around Sita, and Sita is told that if you cross it, till the time you are inside it, you are safe. If you cross it, you might face danger. Now tell me one person who is, you know, for whom it doesn't apply. All of us should know our boundaries. We cross the boundary, we face danger. And if we still choose to cross our boundaries, like Jatayu did, knowing that we will be harmed, that is our largest.
Yeah, hello, I'm Hemango from IIM. Just wanted to thought of asking you a very basic question. Like, we had a certain perspectives which we took it from Indian mythology on how the management perspectives are being taken, like from the leadership, then how to make a team and lots of things which are very common. Now, by hearing your perspectives, there are lots of new variables have come up actually in research, and I believe is that. Do you think, because we have undergone with lots of understanding of in a different perspective, and what I believe is that the industry actually is talking with the change of overall dimensions today as what had been for the last 10-20 years. Definitely there's a need now has come up or emerged as what we call as innovative thinking or strategic thinking. Don't you think that Indian mythology can really work on those lines? As an individual perspective, what you have actually brought in today, can be a very, very, commanding voice for the literature in future, for the management, leaders, or for the roles that we talk of, the leadership and all. What is your thought process on this? Like, can be an area where we can work together and can jointly do some research works within organizations like IMSA.
Sir, I am so happy to hear it. If I could record it, I would have recorded it and put it on social media. Because there are lots of people from different management colleges who say exactly the same thing, but when it comes to actually doing it, they are like, religious narrative, no. We are not into religion. This is philosophy? No, this is religion. We have a lot of Muslim students. I'll tell you that a lot of Muslims are reading my book. And they talk to me constantly. This is not the truth of a particular religion. This is the truth of this world and probably the entire world. When the sages, ancient sages were writing these stories, they were not thinking that in future a Hindu will read or a Muslim will read, a man will read or a woman will read, Brahman will read or Dalit will read. They were talking about certain truth that holds. You know it, you take your decision. Even if you have to take your decision, and mythology has done a very smart job. आप कहीं से भी जाओ, पढ़ना आपको है. If you do the war, either you die because an arrow strikes you, or you die because you lose something. And mythology tells us that very strongly that no war is a win-win for anybody. Everybody has lost something or the other. And when you talk about management theories, they are full of those. If you look at Bhishma, Amba, Shikhandi, Amba coming back as Shikhandi, the transformation that she goes through is all about the transformation that anybody goes through when they have a vision in place. When they come back as Shikhandi with a goal, they cannot recognize they are not recognizable. Nobody remembers Amba, nobody sees Amba in Shikhandi. The complete transformation has happened. It is a transformation theory. If you look at the story from that perspective, Bhishma at the end suddenly saying, I will not fight with a woman. Why? In Ramayana, we find Lakshmana slashing the nose of Surpanaka. Those days, women were not considered inferior to men. Then why did Bhishma suddenly say that? Probably Bhishma wanted to submit. He knew that because of him, a lot of things had gone wrong. And he wanted things to, probably that circle to end. And he went for it. So there are lots of transformation theories, there are lots of leadership theories, management theories, production theories that mythology is talking about. Now that I have convinced you, I will tell many others that I have convinced one, others should also get convinced.
First of all, I thank you very much for presenting this in a very alluring way. I was a teacher of IIT Mumbai, so I'm rather surprised of your experience that you have in IIT Mumbai. Because we are very inviting, except some particular individuals, rest are really accepted. Anyway, that's it. Recently I visited Bali and I witnessed this Kichok dance. There's this famous Kichok character in Mahabharata. And there is a queer element in this Kichok character. Have you looked at Kichok character? That's one question. The second one, I researched on a particular female goddess called Ma Tara in Bengal. I'm also Bengali. Do you see any connection between Ma Tara of Bengal and the Tara of Ramayana that you have talked about?
Yeah, what I said was not at all reflective of IIT Mumbai. It was just one person who was, it was funny. You asked me first about
Kichok.
No, I have not found, or I have not explored, I haven't researched also in that space. One person did ask me once that why did you silence the queer voice when you wrote about Shikhandi? I didn't try to silence at all. But what I did was, I definitely did not spend too much time on on that aspect of Shikhandi, because one, it is huge. If you have to go there, then it will be a clash between Draupadi's narrative and Shikhandi's narrative, because both are very strong and it is unfair to bring two together and get that clash happen. Secondly, I might write a lot of politically correct things, but I don't know that feeling. Just like I spoke about men. And I feel that if I don't know, I shouldn't venture there because it's a very sensitive thing and they have faced many years of, and they still do, unfair treatment. So if I'm not sure, if I don't know, just to be fair to someone and just to sound good, I shouldn't venture there. It is not my space. I don't understand it much. Thirdly, you asked about Ma Tara. Ma Tara is another version of Kali. No connection with Tara of Ramayana. Tara in Ramayana is Bali Sugriva's wife, a monkey queen, and Ma Tara is Kali.
Hi, I'm Arundhati. It's quite interesting listening to your perspective. And you know, when I was listening to you, suddenly curiosity's arrow struck me, and I'd like to ask you. You're talking about the female Indian protagonist of the Indian mythology. So do you think they are any less or any greater than the female characters of Greek mythology? Thank you.
I'm quite unpurred when it comes to Greek mythology. But I do think that myth of every culture has space for every kind of life, and in every culture, women's voice has been marginalized. And that has not been done by the creators of the mythology, it has been done by the interpreters of mythology. It has been done by the patriarchal society, which has ruled for a very long years. It still rules, but we are trying our way out.
So do you think even the female voices of the Greek mythology, even they have been subdued?
Yes, of course. Not only
Greek goddesses. I'm referring to the Greek goddesses.
No. I'm saying that I'm not trying to say that they have been subdued, as in they have been, you know, they exist in their own rights, but their interpretation has suffered. Even if you, I mean, my child is very fond of Zeus. He is not fond of any of the Greek goddesses. That is what I'm talking about.
I was very fond of Pallas Athene.
You know, so there is always, I mean, if you see the way they have been translated into films, the way they have been translated into other literature, it has always been about the men. Only those who are interested have delved into the women aspect of it. But as I say that I may not know Greek, I don't know.
Yeah, okay, but the little bit of reading that I've done, you know, Greek goddesses are larger than life. You know, they are much more larger than the Greek gods themselves.
Maybe,
yes.
Maybe. I have not read much of
So that is the difference between the Indian mythology and the Greek mythology.
I will not be able to comment exactly on how they have been, you know, shaped up, but larger than life, our gods and goddesses, if you see, they are all the same. I mean, but I will definitely say that every culture, every religion, the myth and the text of, philosophical text of every religion says something more profound, which has been hammered into very basic stories, which are meant to treat a section of the society as upper and the rest as lower. And I'm not trying to name the religion, you know it.
Ma'am, good evening. I just want to ask, firstly, your perspective on various issues is something very interesting to know your perspective part of it. You know, the way you bring it out, it's something very interesting. But you also said that it is not about religion, it is about philosophy part of it. You know, if you are talking about the philosophy part of it, the philosophy is from other religions also there, or you intend to write, or you want to read all those, go through those, you know, religions and bring out the characters from there also, or you intend to just keep it to the Indian mythology, specific to Hindu mythology only?
I don't have the courage to do that. I have a Muslim friend, I was just telling her, who said that I would love to do the kind of stuff that you are doing with Islamic texts, but I will not be allowed to do. You know, Hinduism as a religion has a lot been, the temples have been disempowered to a large extent. But Islam and Christianity kind of religions are still governed by their religious heads. churches and mosques. So this friend was talking about Qurbani, which is talking about detachment, which exists in Hinduism as well. But she says that I cannot say that. In every time we observe Qurbani, it is about slashing a goat, and we feel that we are celebrating it. You see, if I try to, as a Hindu, if I try to talk about it, it will be perceived as I am trying to tell them what to do, or I am trying to tell them what to think. It will never be taken in the right perspective. My son's class teacher is a Muslim. Okay, she is in Bombay. She wears a hijab. Well, she is extremely well educated. She is doing a job. She stays in Mumbai, and she often gets questioned. And she says that, "Acha lagta hai, mera choice hai." And she wears those hijab with a lot of decorations, sequin work and all that. What I perceive is that it is her Bhagavat. It is her rebel. That it is my choice, I'll wear it. Who are you to say that if I am wearing a hijab, it is like, I am coming from a family which is very conservative. I am in Mumbai. I know to what extent I can go. I know what I can wear if I want to. But I'll wear this. It is my choice. That is her revolution. And we have been, conditioned to think a person who does Karwa Chauth is backward thinking. A person who does hijab is backward thinking. That is choice. Conditioning, people say that it is conditioning from childhood. It could be. But there is not one man, there is not one woman. If they perceive discomfort, they will all rebel against that discomfort and try to come out of it. So we do not need to tell anybody how to do it. That is something that I have learned from my life.
Just from part of you just said that as Hindu mythology, you can take that kind of liberty over there, but not over there. That means as Hindus, we are quite accommodative, others are not?
I don't know. I have not been killed as yet. So, itna hi bol sakti hu.
Don't worry, I'll protect you, ma'am. I mean, I will take care of you.
Many versions have happened because of that.
Yeah, so that we can argue.
Yeah, there are
Any
versions have happened just because of that.
Let's just take one last question from our video because it's almost running out.
Thank you, Jyoti. Hi, it's been quite an immersive experience. I would be talking on behalf of some of us here in the audience who I can see when I look around, for whom the subject of the Hindu mythology itself is still a journey. And having heard extensively from whatever you have shared in the conversation, I just wanted to know one point. It must have been quite a brave thing to do and quite a feat to be deciding to use mythology as a literary area of your works, and salute and hats off to you, because like you said, it takes a lot of courage. I believe perhaps a lot of us would have wanted to delve further, considering that we are all walking in this area of understanding and bringing forward a lot of issues related to women. I would just stop at that, period. But having seen that a Hindu woman has taken on this massive Herculean task of giving us, the rest of the world, perspectives of the female mythological characters of the Hindu culture, is itself an achievement, and really hats off to you on that. I think you deserve a round of applause for it. But additionally, I just wanted to know, was this decision to take on this great Hindu mythology that all of us know about a spiritual journey for you, or did you really just see it? I'm not trivializing it, please pardon me. Did you see it as a more, I would say, very, how should I put it, a very, a very powerful tool rather of projecting the powerful Indian women mythological characters and present them to the world. And the next point that I wanted to know also, out of curiosity, is that you obviously have so much of power in writing about these mythological characters and your subject as well. How is it and what made you turn to a different subject altogether, a contemporary perspective altogether, when you wrote the summer holidays?
Okay, first one, yes, it was a spiritual journey for sure. But now I am just a storyteller. I did not even take up any course. I did not even want to write a feminist perspective. That was not the brief that I had in mind. I just wanted to tell the story and the way I see it. But when it is a woman's voice telling a story, a lot of things slip. Because of the way they are, because of the way they perceive things. Just like I don't know certain things about a man's body and a man's world, or a man's mind, similarly men wouldn't know a lot of things about us. I'll tell you something very funny. When Ahalya came out, a lot of people read it and it was the first person's narrative, where Ahalya is telling her own story. So there are a lot of things that women say, and there are a lot of things that they perceive, but they keep it to themselves, that okay, this is not the Bagheera that I want to take. But when I'm writing her narrative, her Zubani, her thoughts are also coming out. So a lot of people call it feminist, soch rahi ho. So if women think they are feminists, so these kind of things have happened. When I was writing it, I was not, I did not write myself into any kind of cause, not even the women's cause. I was just trying to interpret it. And if you read the stories, when I was writing Kunti, I found Pandu as a wonderful feminist character. Feminist is again a word that I don't like. But Pandu, look at Pandu, how he was born. He must have known while growing up that one guy was forced upon his mother, and his mother turned pale, and that's how he was born. We have always heard that Pandu was very pale, right? But tell me, when a person knows that that is the way how he was conceived, that person is supposed to grow up with a lot of complexes. So that paleness was a personality disorder, maybe? Mental health? Now, he gets married and history repeats. He gets cursed, he cannot engage with any woman, he cannot give birth to children. Now he knows that if this gets known, Bhishma will again try to do the same thing, and he doesn't want to let that happen. He runs away into the forest with his wives. That is when Kunti tells him that she has certain gifts, she can summon the gods. Now, if your spouse tells you that that person has certain gifts to all the devas and have a child, wouldn't your first question be that did you try it? Common sense. So he must have asked, and if he has asked, then it leads me to believe that Pandu knew everything about karma. Now he lets Kunti decide that you bring these children, do it the way you want. So the entire thing, and not only that, Vyasa left after doing whatever he was asked to do. Pandu gave the children his name. They were called the Pandu. Before Dronacharya stepped in, Pandu was the teacher of his children. Arjun was educated by Pandu into warfare. Later Dronacharya came, and he became Dronacharya's favorite student because he was already a genius. So, these kind of things are just interpretations, and I just probably linked certain things, threaded them together. Probably I did it because I'm a woman who gets to look at things, dig into the root and uproot it, and it happened. So, did you have any other question?
Yes, I wanted to know what made you, what was your inspiration, considering that you're obviously, you have an expert in mythology.
Some of this was written before Sati series.
Okay.
That time I was just having fun in my life. Then they got my gardan and said that okay, now write all these files.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you.
Ellora will join us to give the vote of thanks. She's the sales executive here at the Taj.
Thank you, Koral, for a very fascinating and fantastic session. On behalf of the Prabha Khaitan Foundation, I would like to express my sincerest gratitude to Koral Dasgupta and conversionist Jyoti Agarwal. I would like to thank our distinguished associate Taj Vivanta and Ehsaas Women of Shillong. Last but not the least, thank you for being a wonderful audience. A mosaic of cultures forms the backbone of our nation, contributing to its vibrancy and richness. This is to support our ongoing efforts to foster unity and appreciation of the rich cultural heritage across India's diverse states. We are pleased to felicitate the author with an Ajrak stone. Ajrak, which is a symbolic of Sindhi culture and traditions, is a unique form of block painting practiced by artisans of the Kutch region. Block painting, wooden blocks are used to create lovely designs and patterns. The uniqueness of Ajrak is that it is block printed on both sides with similar depth and color, making the cloth reversible and ensuring a perfect match of balance and order. Natural minerals and vegetable dyes are generally used to making Ajrak clothes. I would now like to call upon esteemed MCS Officer Ms. Twinkle Sinhasini R. Marak to felicitate our guest author with the beautiful Ajrak stone.